a pair of mittens.
Did you?
Yeah, Susan B. Anderson's ones.
We know what a mitten is. Is that your...
Imagine a car park that's like driving into the depths of hell.
It is. It's awful.
To go with your... I'm going to scale it up. Mittens. Fingerless mittens.
Oh, there's my tape measure. I was looking for that this morning. Why it's in this project bag, I have no idea. But...
Would you like to see my shiny door handles?
Oh, you can't see them. What?
I accidentally put a tape measure in there.
You put my tape measure in there. Right, so it's not me going mad. I was looking for it this morning and couldn't find it.
I think it's totally changed her face. Not that it needed changing, of course.
It took a couple of days. Rubber gloves, one of which has got a hole in, but we're going to work with that.
If your vegetables are smelly, then I'm sorry. I just can't go in.
Yeah, it's just not being very good. So
But I asked.
you've got bare feet. Are you that warm? Sorry.
It's okay. Welcome, everybody, to the Bakery Bears video show.
Dan made me jump.
Featuring my favourite colourways.
Yes.
Oh yes, it's very exciting because it's a very special colourways, plural.
It's a very special Colourways.
Yes.
That was excellent.
It's plural, isn't
Excellent. It is plural, yes.
it? It's very exciting. Kay's been saving it up.
Two is a little set.
Yes. She's
Yeah.
been saving up specially for this show because, and this is where it got really exciting, we filmed my favourite colourways on the summer solstice.
We did.
And I have decided that the way we shall judge the upcoming summer season
Yes.
is by the weather on the summer solstice.
Oh, well, let's hope
Please
so.
inform us, Kay, about the weather on the summer solstice.
It was drizzly and about 11 degrees, I think, and very grey. It was lovely.
Now,
so
you
look-
even looked up Stonehenge, didn't you?
I did, because they always sort of film the summer solstice, don't they, at Stonehenge? And usually I think there's a lot of people there, but I don't think there was anybody there this year. But they filmed it and it was just like completely overcast. It was like an English heritage video I found on YouTube.
Right.
And I kind of zipped it forward like this just to watch the weather progress as the sun rose. I say the sun rose, you couldn't see it at all. It was just complete cloud cover and it was raining and everything. And I know that's a shame, isn't it, that you couldn't see the sunrise.
Yeah.
But...
You could do for like a million days prior to that.
Well, that's true.
And you'll be able to for a million days after that. So,
but it was very lovely.
I'm not going to
very
weep
lovely.
for not seeing it on the summer
No,
solstice.
I'm not going to weep either. And I know there are people out there like us that don't like the sun, so...
You may be wondering who this young lady is sat next to me. Because let me tell you, I'm wondering too. Talk about transformation.
It's me, everyone.
Talk about transformation.
Not really.
No, let me finish because you'll be agreeing with me in a second.
Okay.
It all comes down to eyesight.
Well, do you know, I've mentioned, I think, on the last couple of episodes that I've been struggling with my eyes, and I went to the opticians recently and had a full eye test, and I had a contact lens check as well, because I've worn contact lenses since I was about 16, and I always had glasses as well, but I never really wore them through the day. I was very self-conscious about it. Always wore contact lenses, but the past year or so, you reach that age, don't you, where even if you don't need glasses or anything, you tend to reach that age where you might need reading glasses. Well, because I was very short-sighted anyway, getting that sort of like having to do this on top of the short-sightedness, it was just, I wasn't seeing well in my contact lenses at all. So I bit the bullet and I got some varifocals, and they're just like, I can see everything.
The transformation.
It's like X-ray vision.
Honestly, the transformation.
I can see right over there, and then I can see right here.
It's been just them. Do you know something? I think that things like eyesight, a bit like mental health, it's easy to take it for granted because you can't see it.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Because eyesight is all about seeing. But the thing is, as your eyesight deteriorates every day, you get used to it.
Yeah.
It feels normal because you're living through it.
I think that's what was happening with me. I don't think I realised.
No.
that I was struggling to see well.
Because let's be completely honest here. You did go to the opticians last year.
I did.
They did tell you last year
They did.
that you needed to do this. But
yes,
I think,
and I was like, I'm not having varifocals. I'm not that old.
The thing is, though, as well, I think all of us need a pass for last year. And I think the reason for that is because of the way of the world, and it still is in an awful lot of places, but the way the world, specifically last year, just going into a shop felt stressful.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine being sat in an optician's.
Yeah, it was...
The stress levels with the masks and everything.
It was horrible.
Being out.
Yeah, I mean, I went last year.
On your own.
Yeah, it was right in the middle of everything. And I had a sort of routine check, and they said, oh, you really could do with some varifocals now. And I was like, I'm not having varifocals. And I did get some new glasses last year, but they were more like reading glasses. So they were brilliant up close, but I couldn't really see very well in them, sort of, in the distance. But I'd been wearing those with my contact lenses, pretty much for a year. And I just think I'd caused some eye strain. I was having some real issues. But, I've had these now, and I've been wearing these for 10 days-ish, something like that maybe. And,
I've got to say that seeing the
eye
difference...
pain's gone, and...
Seeing the difference between where Kay was just a couple of weeks ago and where she is now, because I'd sort of grown to just expect the tension that you could see.
I was squinting a lot, and I don't think I realised I was squinting a lot, and I think that can cause eye pain, if you're doing this all the time.
And now suddenly, within a few days of wearing the glasses, it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
and it's totally changed. I think it's totally changed her face. Not that it needed changing, of course.
It took a couple of days to get used to the varifocals, but now it just feels like normal glasses, and they're brilliant. Then I had in my head a vision of what like my mum's got. My mum's got the ones with sort of a line across, and you can see it, and that's all they were originally.
Yeah.
But now, I went for the kind of top of the range. They've got an anti-glare thing on, and they're sort of graduated, and the varifocalness is sort of like all. Because they measure your eyes and they put lines on the glasses when you get in them, just to see where the graduation needs to start and everything. I mean, it's brilliant what they do. And
do you know something? If ever there's something that you should... I think when you're talking about your health and when it's your eyesight, it is your health. My goodness, you always should go that extra mile and get the best that you possibly can. Just because you've only got one set of eyes, haven't you? And you've got to take care of them. And it's the same with anything in your body, but it's just been it's just been wonderful seeing the change in.
I'm not saying I'm never going to wear contact lenses again, because I might do, but at the minute it's really suiting me just to wear glasses. And,
it is.
Dan and Bryony both say, "Oh, you look really nice in them," which I don't know. I don't know about that, but.
When you think about what Kay's job is, which is, you're always looking down here.
It was all the close work.
Or looking up here at a screen.
It's all the close work, I think, that had just, I was just getting a lot of eye pain, and that caused me a lot of anxiety because I didn't know what was going on, and it just all snowballed. And so.
In other news, our local supermarket has finally pushed us to the limit. It all stemmed, and do you know what? I didn't tell you. It all stemmed from their idiotic upgrade about... I'm talking their original upgrade, where they put in that new dreadful car park. Imagine a car park that's like driving into the depths of hell.
It is. It's awful. It's a 2-storey. It didn't used to be.
It's
it just
rusted
was a lovely open
crazy,
car park.
And it's fairly new.
Yeah, and then they built this 2-storey monstrosity. And if you go on the bottom deck, it's just black as night, even when it's really sunny. It's just awfully depressing.
And the worst bit of all about this car park is it's on a slope.
It's on a slope.
And this bit of land is not on a slope. They've just installed it terribly. And so what happens is, this has happened to me before. I've been there you've got to wedge yourself between your shopping basket and the car to load your shopping into the car. Otherwise it hits the car, and it did. There's a small dent on the side of the car but also I fear for and worry about, my mum's generation. And thinking of that, I had to pop into the shop just to pick up some milk the other day, and as I'm coming out, and it's a total disaster at the moment because they're trying to sort
the car park out.
So
and it's
now you just can't
awful.
get parked. Trying to get out of the car park, there's some, lovely old guy trying to load his car up. He turned around and the trolley starts flying into the traffic. This has been the sort of thing that's pushed us over the edge because we have for months been getting more and more frustrated about it because the vegetable stinks of smelly water.
It's funny, I don't know what's been going on with the fresh veg. It's just not been very nice.
Also, their lines have been disappearing.
Yeah, the stock levels have not been brilliant.
And in case I didn't say, this is Sainsburys. If your vegetables are smelly, then I'm sorry, I just can't go in.
Yeah, it's just not been very good. So what did we do?
Look, this is something...
Oh, what did you do? You spent a long time doing this.
This is something that we considered last year, again, when, it was all terrible.
We couldn't get a slot,
Couldn't
get a delivery slot.
I think we're all hesitant to change, aren't we? But do you know what? We did an online shop.
We did, an online shop.
At an online supermarket that doesn't have, physical stores.
No.
Ocado. We've had one delivery from them, and it was tremendous.
It's really good.
I mean, tremendous.
It was
the
really
vegetables
good.
were great.
Yeah.
Everything was great.
Yeah.
It's like...
And you can buy Marks and Spencer's items from them as well. They joined forces with Marks and Spencer's last year, which was brilliant. So I could get all these lovely things that we normally have to traipse to the other side of town for.
So very exciting. Ocado is the shop. Really fresh.
We liked it. We read reviews and there were some good ones and some bad ones, but that's like everything, isn't it?
Do you know what?
And I think you've just got to judge it for yourself. Just give it a go and judge it for yourself.
I've got to say, not having to traipse around
the shops.
The shop is marvellous.
Yeah, you've still got to unpack it when it comes in the house, but you don't have to... push your trolley around and do all
Chase
that.
after it as it sails across the...
Look!
That's enough waffle because we have...
a whole lot of waffle.
Yes. We have too many lovely things to look at today. Oh, yes. So without further ado, I think it's time that I asked Kay Jones, what's on your needle?
So, the first thing I'm working on in my lovely woodland bag, channeling autumn, is a hat. Now... I decided that I wanted another hat for myself. I pretty much wear the same hat all the time, even through winter, unless it's really, really cold. Past few years, I've been wearing the same hat and I've got it here to show you. And Dan said to me, why don't you knit yourself another one of those because it's the only hat that you ever seem to wear. I said, well, that's a good idea. I'm going to do that. And the hat that I always wear is my twister hat. Now, the twister was one of my platinum patterns, one of my very early platinum patterns, I think, wasn't it? It might have even been the second pattern or something, or third.
Yes.
It might have been 2018, but I might have got that wrong. But anyway, it was one of the really early platinum patterns. And this is the actual hat that I knitted. And you can see it's full of all these twisted stitches. It's got a twist in the rib and then lots of through the back loop stitches in the main body. But what it does is it creates this kind of fuzziness in terms of how it looks, and it's really good for variegated yarns. It kind of disguises anything that might be a little bit untoward with your variegated yarns. But this yarn actually was one I dyed. It was a Dumbledore colourway. I think I called it I Do Love Knitting Patterns because it was the robes that he wore when he actually said that line in, I can't remember which film it was one of the later ones, wasn't it? And it was like a grey coloured robe, pale grey, but on the back of it, I looked it up, it had embroidery that was like a salmon colour and gold, so I put those colours into it. It turned out really nice. But I literally, when I have to wear a hat, this is the one that I wear all the time. So I decided to knit another one. And I went through my stash looking for yarn. But I love the base that I use for this one. And it's the 2-ply, it's the 80/20 merino nylon. And I thought, I wonder if I've got any yarns in my stash using that base. And I did, and I had this one, and it's actually perfect. So the yarn I'm using is a Hedgerow Yarns, and I think I got this last year. And the colourway is called Mr. Fox. And it's funny because Bryony really likes watching the Peter Rabbit. Do you know the BBC one? the sort of CBeebies one. It's really sweet, actually. She does still watch it because it's really cute. And I always call... What's he called? I can't think of his name. The fox.
Mr. Fox?
No, I always call him Mr. Fox, but his name is something else. I can't even remember what it is because I always call him Mr. Fox. And Brian is always like, oh, it's not his name. But anyway, this one is called Mr. Fox, which made me laugh. And it's fingering weight, 80/20. And it's this gorgeous colour. Look. How lovely is that? And how autumnal is that? So I'm channeling autumn again with this project. And I started the hat. Now, I accidentally made a little pattern adjustment to this hat. I'll tell you in a second. So here it is. Look how lovely it's looking. So you can see all the twisted stitches there. And yes, there are twisted stitches in the rib, but there's actually too many. I made an accidental modification. If you look in my original one, you can see the twists are every few rows. Well, in this one, I did them every other row by accident, but actually I love it. I think it looks great. So it's like super, super twisty. And I love how it's knitting up. You never know with a variegated yarn how it's going to knit up. But saying that, Hedgerow Yarns, I've knit a lot of her yarns. It's Jane, isn't it? I've knit a lot of her yarns, and touch wood, I've never had any that sort of pull. They're very good variegated yarns, and her speckled yarns are like beautiful. I've got this one just sat waiting. Oh, this is gorgeous. This is Fairy Lights. I mean, look at the speckles, and that's the 80/20 as well. This would make a fabulous hat, but I think it'll be socks, but I'm saving it. I might do a Christmas in July cast on with this actually, but her speckles are phenomenal. You know, whatever she does, oh, just look, can you see that? Aren't they just gorgeous? Oh, I really need to cast this on now. It's beautiful. I'm going to keep that out. So I love her. I love Jane's yarn, and she does lots of minis as well. And whenever I see a set of minis, I'm in there, and I've got loads of her little minis as well. They're all beautiful, but I think it's just knitting up gorgeously. So if you've got a skein of Jane's yarn in your stash, you know, get it on the needles, I would say, because it's just so lovely.
That rib is amazing.
I know. Accidental loveliness.
Goodness me.
Hashtag, if you want to use that. But look, I think it's going to be such a lovely, you know, colour, don't you think?
It's just perfect.
Oh, I really love it.
I mean, talk about creating something that's going to make you wish even more.
I know.
I think that there'll be opportunities through this summer to wear that hat.
Well, let's hope so.
Because I'll be honest, there's been a couple of mornings.
It's been
yesterday
a bit chilly.
Morning.
It has.
I nearly put a hat on when I went for a run.
It has been a bit chilly in the morning. I think it was like 5 degrees one morning.
It's been the first time. It's got to be the first time in 2 years when I've been running in late June in long leggings.
I know. But then just a couple of weeks ago, or even a week ago, it was really warm.
Yeah.
So it's very odd, you know. I would settle for the weather we've got now all through the summer. It's like maximum of sort of 18 degrees, which I think is just brilliant. But I doubt we'll get that. But you never know.
But if someone said you could have a maximum of 14 degrees, surely you'd take that over 18.
Yes. I would take that, but I think that's just been too ambitious, really.
To make sure we were on the same page.
Far too ambitious. So I'm knitting this exactly to pattern, apart from my little modification there. So I use 3mm needles. And I always, for my hats, I use Knit Pro Nova 16-inch needles. I really love these needles, and they're quite inexpensive, but I always use Knit Pro Nova for hats. I've got loads of different sizes. I love the join is really nice here. It's nice and smooth. I've never had one that's a problem. And I like the pointiness. They're pointy enough, but not so pointy that they're going to cause you any kind of damage. They're just really lovely and nice and smooth metal, not too slippy. I think they're perfect. So it's a very pleasant knit. You know, it is a lot of twisted stitches, but I really enjoy it. I think it just gives you a little bit of variation in your stocking stitch. So I really love the texture that it produces. And, you know, before long I'll have a full hat like this one.
Gorgeous.
That's my twister.
It's amazing. And have you ever seen a rib like that before?
Oh, I've no idea.
Right.
I don't know.
It's very sort of standy outy rope like.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's really pretty, look.
It looks like a sort of cool cable.
Yeah, it does a little bit. Yeah, it is sort of like a cable, because that is like a mock cable, that twist, isn't it, in the actual one?
And this is like a proper cable.
It's not a proper cable, it's
No.
the same stitch, I just did it more often.
So will that make the rib more sucky?
No, I don't think so. I don't.
Right.
I think it's probably about the same.
Similarly sucky?
Yeah, I think
Right.
so. I don't think there's that much difference.
Speaking of accidental mistakes, thank you to the many, many people.
Well, if it's a mistake, it will be accidental, won't
Yes.
it?
The many, many people who pointed out.
Dan made a mistake and I didn't even notice it.
Well, yeah, I knit the wrong rib on the flurry socks.
So he's got two different ribs on the socks he's knitting, the blue ones. But because I said to you said, "Oh, I'll rip it out and do it again." I said, "Oh, don't bother, it's fine."
So should I just not bother and just carry on?
I wouldn't bother.
Okay.
Just carry on, you know.
No one's going to see anyway.
No.
They'll be under your trousers.
Yes, nobody's going to say anything, are they?
So long as it's a bit sucky on the top.
If anybody's down there at ground level looking at the ribs on your socks, then there's something wrong, isn't there? Let's face it. Do you know what I mean?
I don't feel I can comment on this.
I want to cast that on now.
What are you going to cast on?
I'm going to leave it there.
But do you know what you're going to cast on with it?
No, I think it's going to have to be a pair of socks.
Right.
I was thinking that I might invent some texture pattern to put into it because I think it would be super lovely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll just leave that there to mull over.
Yeah, good idea.
So, Dan Jones.
Yes.
What's on your needles?
I'm at the decreases on the Ingerhat.
Oh, lovely.
Yes. And
Oh, look at that.
as I've said a few times, it takes me a little while to do this repeat just because it's so long. And I like to work out the little grey cells. I like working them out, and that's the reason why I didn't put any markers in, because I could have done the end of the
It looks
repeats.
beautiful.
But I didn't do that. Now, I was worried.
It looks so beautiful.
I was looking at this, and I don't know why I was thinking, oh my goodness, this looks massive. But you put it on and you actually said it felt slightly snug.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the pattern that just makes it look bigger than it actually is. It fit my head great.
Right.
And there was just a little gap at the top, you know, and you'd started the decreases now, so
well,
it should...
Little gap.
It should... Well, when it was on my head, it
It's a
looked
huge
small.
gaping hole at the top.
Yeah, but decreases are usually...
It's long, the decreases.
Oh, is it? Right, okay.
I don't think in a bad way.
Right. How many rounds is it, do you know, for the decreases?
There you go. I mean, that looks quite long to me.
I don't even need to do that.
20
I can totally see it in my glasses.
20 rounds.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Okay. I know nothing.
I think that's probably about average.
I've thoroughly...
Would you like me to read this very small writing? I can do that.
I've thoroughly enjoyed knitting this. It's been great fun, and I think, you know, I would guess, well, I mean, who knows, because it is quite a taxing, I find it quite a taxing knit.
Yeah, it definitely looks like that.
In a good way.
You've done
in
it
a good way.
amazingly well. And the Latvian braid, I think, is so pretty.
That's something that I definitely want to do more of.
It's really pretty.
You know, I do feel like that. I mean, I knitted once a pair of mittens, but you helped me loads with it, and it was the Susan B. Anderson
Pair
mitt.
of mittens.
Yeah, I knitted a pair of mittens.
Did you?
Yeah, Susan B. Anderson's ones.
We know what a mitten is. Is that your international
I'm gonna
sign language for mittens? Maybe it is.
Yeah, to go with I'm going to scale it up. Mittens. Fingerless mittens. I knitted the Susan B. Anderson mittens in like an oatmeal-y, really...
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember the ones.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember them. I've got them upstairs.
Susan commented on my post.
That's the best, isn't it?
She put...
When Susan comments on your posts.
She put, I'm smitten with your mittens.
Oh, you even remember what she said?
Yeah, it's a bit sad, isn't it?
That's amazing. Oh, I do get thrilled when Susan sort of likes my posts. And
That's so funny. So I feel like that I should try knitting some of those pointy-ended colour working
oh, right.
ones.
Yeah, Latvian mittens.
You've got it.
Yeah.
I feel like I should just throw myself into it and just try and...
I do really like those. It's just that pointiness just feels a bit strange to me because your fingers, although they do go like that, don't they? So I suppose it makes sense for them to be like that, but they're very pointy, aren't they?
Yeah.
But they are beautiful. And, the patterns on them are gorgeous.
So I'm thinking...
Give it a go.
That perhaps I should try and throw myself into that. And it's this really that has sort of lit me up to that, specifically doing that Latvian braid that just made me think, maybe these Latvians know what they're doing when it comes to knitting.
Well, I'm sure they absolutely do. We should go to Latvia, shouldn't we, and buy all the mittens.
So that's my lovely hat. The yarn is gorgeous. It is, of course, the figgy pudding and the gorgeous pink that Kay dyed for me.
I did.
And yes, it's...
And it's DK weight, that, isn't
absolutely beautiful. What else? Oh, yes. What else is on your needles?
Right, so... Oh, there's my tape measure. I was looking for that this morning. Why it's in this project bag, I have no idea. But there we go. There's my tape measure. From the P.O.P. I have no idea why I've got a P.O.P. tape measure. Someone must have sent me that. What?
I accidentally put your tape measure in there.
You put my tape measure in there?
Yeah.
Right, so it's not me going mad. I was looking for it this morning and couldn't find it.
I borrowed it last night.
Right.
And I must have put it back into the wrong bag.
It doesn't live in a bag. It lives in my little
in your basket
near my...
I got confused when I was coming back to put it in the basket.
Right.
And I couldn't remember if it was in a bag or in a basket.
Okay, well, I'll let you off. I shall forgive you.
Thank you.
So I've started a pair of socks for Dan, and it's in a new project bag that I made. I made myself a little project bag. Oh, look at the cuteness of this fabric. A little rabbit in the garden, and then on the other side there's a fox, but he's right down there. And this fabric I found on eBay. I've no idea what it is, unfortunately. It didn't tell me the sort of brand or the name of the fabric or anything. I just liked the look of it. I wanted something gardeny, and I just saw this and thought it was cute. But the fox was right on the bottom of the fabric, literally where he was there. That was the selvage down there. So he's right on the bottom, but he's there, look, and a little mouse. Oh, there. But look at the radishes and everything. Oh,
I love radishes. You don't like them?
So cute. Oh, no, I can't stand radishes.
Because they're too hot?
I don't like hot things, and they're hot. Yeah, I don't like them.
I tell you now, the types of bags that I love the most, this is just perfect. Because the one thing I cannot really stand, especially when you're knitting something small, like what I'm doing... Oh, no, I think it is actually in there. It does.
Flat bottoms.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when you're like knitting socks, when you first cast on socks, especially in fingering weight, if you've got a bag that's not got a flat bottom and it's like going all over the place.
Like that, I do like a flat bottom. Yeah, and this is just the bag the size of bag that I used to make when I did sell them. And I've still got, because I use templates. You made me some templates just out of like plywood or what? No, it's not even plywood. I don't know what they are.
It was.
Is it plywood? It's got like a white surface on one side.
There was a range of different ones.
Yeah, and Dan just cut me out the sizes so that I could just zip round like this with the rotary cutter.
I think it surprises some people that I am actually quite handy.
He is quite handy. He's just recently replaced all of the door handles in the house.
Would you like to see my shiny door handles?
Oh, you can't see them. It's behind this plant.
Yes.
You can't see it, but all of the door handles in our house were gold coloured because we bought the house 15 years ago, and at the time that was kind of the fashion, I think.
Yeah, I feel like it went out of fashion quite quickly.
I think it kind of did. And for not for ages, but for a while I've been saying to Dan, I would love chrome door handles.
Well,
and you
also,
actually just recently replaced all of them.
The handles were in a really bad way.
Some of them were just terrible, and I don't think they were very good quality, were they, really, when they put them on? You know what builders are like, they'll just choose the cheapest, right?
They look like antiques. They look like just awful.
They weren't very good. So we've got lovely chrome, modern-looking handles now, all through the house.
Whenever I walk through a door, I get a little thrill.
Because it's like, ooh.
I know it's wrong.
I did that. It's not wrong. They look lovely.
And do you know what? All this stemmed about 2 years ago we'd always had this problem with our sink. And we'd have spoken about this
Kitchen
before.
sink,
We'd have spoken about
yeah.
this before. We had this big problem with our sink, and eventually we found this plumber who came and fixed it for us, and we got a new tap put in the kitchen. And as soon as you walk in the house...
We had a new sink.
We did. But we also had a new tap. And as soon as you walk in the house, it's the first thing that you see.
Yeah, it's lovely,
and
shiny chrome tap.
Do you know what? It just puts a smile on my face. I don't know what's wrong with me.
It's the small things in life.
That a shiny chrome tap makes me smile.
Yes.
But it does.
Yes. So anyway, back to my bag. So yeah, I made this lovely bag and it's got this lovely pink dotty lining.
What's he doing with that radish? Is he giving it to the fox? Or is he taking it away to eat?
It seems unlikely that he's going to give it to the fox. It's on the bottom. He's not going to give that to the fox.
The fox appears to be gardening.
Well, he's gardening, that fox, so maybe
They're helping
he
each
is.
other.
Maybe the fox just dug up the radish and he's given it to the mouse.
Yes.
I think that's what's happened.
Definitely.
So yeah, in my lovely bag is a pair of socks for Dan that I've just recently cast on. And I'm using the moustache yarn that I mentioned last time, I think. So it's from Moustache Yarn. And it's the Rebel. It's the Han Solo one. And with Stacey's yarn, the self-striping, it comes in two 50-gram skeins that are identical, so you know that you're going to get matching socks, which I think is brilliant. And because I had two 50-gram skeins, I've decided to knit these at the same time. So I cast them both on. The only problem is my yarns keep getting kind of muddled up in the bag. There we go.
Welcome to our world, Kay. And I'm speaking for everyone within earshot.
I don't know what happens, even when you've only got one skein of yarn, you put them back into your project bag, and then the next second you take them out, it's like all wrapped around and everything. I don't know what happens. I think those little gremlins go in there and muddle up your yarn. So here's the first one that I cast on, and I'm to the heel flap now. I'm just about to start the heel flap. These are just shorties, because Dan wanted short socks. Look at the colour.
Oh my goodness.
I always hold them the wrong way, don't I? How cool is that? So it's like his original outfit, isn't it? There's his trousers, look. And then he has his shirts, that sort of creamy colour, and then his jacket is the brown, I think. Is that right? And then I wonder if this grey is the Millennium Falcon, I don't know. Or maybe he had grey on his outfit as well. How fun, though, is that? Stacey's yarn's brilliant, isn't it? Really brilliant. She can really do self-striping like...
What's fun is that they are my perfect socks.
Yeah.
That's what's fun.
Yes, and I'm knitting these exactly the same as I knit his other pair.
Blue jobs.
Yeah, another pair that I knit for him that was self-striping. It's a 3x1 broken rib. So I did a 1x1 cuff, and then it's a 3x1 broken rib. So you do one plain knit round and one round which is knit 3 purl 1. And that is so it's a 4-stitch repeat, and that fits in perfectly with the stitch count.
What you need from a sock is one that doesn't go floppy by the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so many socks, it's like sliding down your leg a little bit, and especially if you're out and about.
Yeah, they can.
These
can
are
do.
proper sucky, and they stay up no matter what.
Right, and it's only a short leg as well. I mean, I've done 15 rounds of rib and then 30 rounds of leg. And that seems to work really well for a short sock for you. So I'm just about to start the heel. So that's the first one. So I've got the second one almost to the same point. Look, da-da! How matchy are they? Isn't that brilliant?
It's the super match game.
Super match game. Blankety blank. Oh, those were the days.
Yes.
So I think I've got about 8 rounds to go on this one just to get that to the same point. And I've chosen a heel yarn. I think I'm only going to do a contrast heel. I think I'll just knit through the toe.
Who's your favourite presenter at Blankety Blank?
Terry Wogan.
I really like Terry Wogan, but...
Oh, you like Les Dawson.
Yes.
I knew he was going to say Les Dawson was really funny, actually. I did really like Terry Wogan. I liked his microphone. He had that long stick
that was brilliant.
one
That was
with
brilliant.
the...
Yeah. Who was the very first presenter?
It wasn't Leslie Crowther, was it?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think it was
What was that
Leslie
TV show? I can't remember the TV show that Les Dawson was on, where he dressed up as the woman.
The woman.
And he was stood talking to his friend.
His next door neighbour.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Oh, so funny.
I wish I could remember that. He must have had a sketch show.
Yeah, maybe he did.
Oh, I love Les Dawson.
Yeah, I mean, he was funny. He's definitely of his time, wasn't he? But I thought he was funny as well.
Well, that's great that you did, because to me, Les Dawson is quite silly humour.
He is silly humour, and a lot of silly humour I don't get. You were talking about Dom Jolly yesterday, and I was like, it's just not funny. Why is what he does, in the street with the phone, why is that funny? I just don't get it. And Dan and Bryony were just like wetting themselves, laughing over it.
Bryony was studying some poetry, and it reminded me of this poetry thing that Dom Jolly did. Dom Jolly used to do these things where he would go out into the real world. People didn't know that he was being silly. They would think he was serious. He went to a poetry open mic night in disguise and went up and said, I'd like to read a poem called 5 Million, and it's about mathematics. And he starts off counting from 1 to 5 million, and seeing the reactions of the audience was just hilarious.
He was just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It was like this. And I'm like, this is not funny. Why is this funny? I mean, I was laughing, but I was laughing because it's just like, it's not funny. Anyway.
And to me, Les Dawson was that sort of silly type of comedian.
You're probably right, actually. But, I mean, the two Ronnies were sort of a similar humour, and I thought they were hilarious.
And I know your favourite of all was Eric Morecambe.
Oh, no, don't.
He's my favourite.
I didn't think he was funny.
Morecambe and Wise. Oh, my goodness.
See, I didn't think he was funny.
I could watch that scene with Andre Previn, where he's playing the piano, where Eric Morecambe sits down and plays the piano.
It just makes me cringe.
I'm playing all the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order.
So, back to my contrast yarn.
Yes.
I've chosen a Cascade Heritage. I've got loads of this colour and loads of this yarn. So I thought there's bound to be a colour that's going to work. And I chose this one because I thought it was quite C3PO. And I think it goes with all of the colours nicely. So that golden colour, yeah. And this is burnished gold is the colour. It's really nice. It's got a slightly greenish hue to it, I think, which I think burnished gold would have that sort of greenish hue. So that's going to be the contrast heel. And I'm working these socks on Addy lace needles. Now I had one already in 2.25. This is the one, Addy lace. I've had this for years. So I started this one on that, and then I thought, I'll go and see if I've got another one so I can start the other sock. And I didn't have another 2.25, so I ordered one. And on face value, it looks the same, but there are a couple of differences in the needle, and I think it's interesting actually how things change. The original one that I've had for quite a few years says that it's nickel plated. Now the new one doesn't say nickel plated. It just says lace needles with extra sharp tips, and I can't find anywhere on it that it says it's nickel plated, but the original one does. The cable on the original one, on the old one, is stiffer than the new one. The new one is slightly thinner and it's much more flexible. This is the new one. It's like a paler red. You probably can't tell the difference, but it is. It's slightly paler in colour and it's a bit thinner and more flexible. This one, the original one, is much stiffer. So that's fine. They've obviously improved the material that they're using there to make it a bit more flexible. But I think the needles are slightly different. And in all honesty, I think I prefer the original needles. And I wonder if it's something to do with the nickel plating. Maybe the new ones are not nickel plated. No, I mean, you can't really tell from looking at them, but just working with them, the original ones feel slightly heavier than the newer ones. And I actually prefer the weight of the original ones to the newer ones. These are perfectly lovely. I've got no complaints at all, but I think I still prefer the older ones. But that's interesting, isn't it? Just to compare a few years difference in effectively the same needle, and just how it's good really that manufacturers think about these things and try and improve things. And sometimes you like it, don't you? And sometimes you don't. And I've got no, like I say, I've got no complaints about the new one at all. But when you're working with one that you know really well, you do notice these slight changes.
You're very kind to say that manufacturers like to improve things. That is often the case.
Yeah.
But we also need to be honest with ourselves. I would say it's probably more often that they're cutting corners to try and make more money.
Yeah, that could well be the case. I mean, they're German, aren't they, Addy? And I know that German products generally are very good.
Yeah.
You know, their quality levels are very good, I think, in Germany. They are sticklers for, you know, for quality, I think. I think if these ones were still nickel-plated, I think it would say, because that one does say nickel-plated. So maybe they're just stainless steel.
So the ones you like are nickel-plated?
Yes.
And the ones you don't like don't say anything about being nickel-plated?
They don't say anything about being nickel-plated. That doesn't mean they aren't, but, you know, I just think if they put it on the original one, they would still be putting it on if they were nickel-plated still, wouldn't they?
And they feel different?
They feel different. This one feels a little bit heavier than this one. This definitely feels like a lighter needle. I haven't weighed them. I've not done this mathematically.
So the one that you like is heavier?
I think it's slightly heavier.
Right.
And if it was plated, that would give a bit more weight, wouldn't it?
It would. And you would think by not nickel plating them, that would save them the money.
Maybe so, yeah. They definitely feel
you do need to ask the question,
different.
Is it possible to buy those needles that are nickel plated still?
I don't know.
Have you just perhaps bought the wrong one? But it says
no,
premium.
I mean, they're both Addy lace, you know, they're both Addy lace. I think it's the same product. I think they've just changed the product. But they're both really nice to work with, but I do prefer that original one. And I wished I'd... You always wish, you know, when you find something you like, I always think you should buy a couple of them just in case it changes. It's like
shoes.
Those walking shoes.
Yes.
I found some really nice walking shoes recently, and I bought another pair in a different colour, and I've stashed them away. Because you never know...
What colour are they?
Oh, they're beautiful.
Are they?
They're like a sort of corally pink.
Ooh.
Oh, they're kind of like that.
Ooh, marvellous.
They're like that colour. The ones I'm wearing at the minute are like a sort of
blue.
Aqua blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... Yes, so that's my latest pair of socks.
Excellent.
What else are you working on? Do you have something else?
This is what I've been
Oh
working
my goodness,
on.
yes.
I finished the body. Now, I'm slightly concerned.
It's your anniversary.
Is it?
No, isn't it called the anniversary jumper or something?
Yeah, I'm fairly...
I suppose every day's an anniversary of something if you thought hard enough about it.
Yes. For some reason, and it won't be for some reason, I will have started knitting this without your guiding hand.
Oh, right.
On the Ridari, I went down a needle size.
For the rib. What we're talking about? You went down a needle size... Oh, from the pattern.
On everything.
Yes.
And on this, I haven't.
Oh, right, okay.
Now, what I'm thinking is...
So you're knitting it on 5mm?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
What I'm thinking is this. Why don't I? I've cast this on with the same size. It's a 4mm.
For the rib?
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm going to, instead of going up to a 5...
Go up to a 4.5?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to go up to a 4.5.
Because you like the sleeves on the other one, don't you?
I don't like things with a lot of ease.
Yes.
You
like form fitting.
This is the first time in my life I've managed to use that
well done.
at the right time. How many years is it? And I've actually used the right knitting term in a sentence. I'm very pleased.
You like form fitting things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it'll still be slightly bigger than the other one, but it'll be less big than what it would be if... I mean, I suppose the other option is I could just go straight up with...
Not with 4s, no.
No, bad idea. So I'll go...
If you use 4.5s on the other sleeves and it's the same stitch count, I mean, just check that. Check that your stitch count is
the same.
Right, well, I would use 4.5s then for the sleeves. The body, you probably won't find that much difference in the body, maybe. Because you've knit the whole body with 5s. You can't change it now.
Well, I could rip it back, I suppose.
Oh, get on. You're not going to do that, surely. Oh, it's very Boba Fett green.
It's cool, isn't it?
I've just realised.
Yeah, I mean... We should check the gauge, shouldn't we?
I have recently checked the gauge, and I can talk about that in Endy Bits, because...
Whose gauge?
The gauge on your Ridari.
But
so I can check it against that,
yes.
is what you want me to do, because we haven't blocked the Ridari yet. Because it's not quite finished. It will be for next time, though.
Yes. But this, I literally have just finished this body. This is the anniversary, and it's been a joy from start to finish. The black is different. Actually, I'll talk about the black in a minute. It's the Galaxy. But this green is gorgeous to work with. I've not had any issues with anything being too sort of splitty.
No.
There was very much on the brown, on the Radari. That could be quite weak. Similarly, the black, as we've spoken about at length, could be quite weak. The white on the Radari wasn't.
I think I've remembered the colourway of this green.
Right.
I think it was lime grass, Lyme, lime grass. I think that was the green.
The body is all done, and it's cool that you're saying it's Boba Fett, because look who's on my bag.
I know. Well, I just looked at your camera case, which is Boba Fett, and I thought it was exactly the same colour.
Sadly, you can't see the camera case. No. Apologies for that, but it's a very cool Boba Fett green case.
And it looks the same green. It
absolutely does. The sleeve is now on the needles. I'm using the really great square jobs. What are they called?
Yeah, I bought down a full set of 20 centimetre DPNs. They are the Knit Pro Cubics.
Yes, and I've done a review.
Yeah.
Which is coming out soon. And I absolutely love them. There's ups and downs to these needles, but the ups, for the type of knitter that I am, far outweigh
the downs.
The downs. But I cover it all in the review. But I've got to do 1.5 inches, and I'm probably about a quarter of a way to go.
It's about 1 inch, that, looking at it.
It's literally just over. I've just measured it a second ago with my froggy tape measure, which I found yesterday, which is the reason why I gave you back yours.
That's very kind. I have bought down all of these things. These things. He's got tapestry needles. He's got tape measures.
Guess what?
He's got scissors.
I found all of it.
Everything.
I found all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was at the bottom of the great pit of Carcoon.
What's that? A project bag?
Yeah, the one with the cascades in it.
Oh no! Don't talk about the cascades.
We don't speak of that.
We still haven't finished the cascades. It's so complicated that I can't even face it.
I'm considering us sitting down, looking at it, and going, how would we finish it?
We should do it. Let's do it. Let's pencil in some time to look at that.
Yeah, in the summer.
Sometime.
In the summer. Yes, so it's ready for the autumn.
Yes.
But I think more of the right way to go is to look at it and go, how should this finish?
How would we do it? Yeah.
Because the pattern is by and large finished.
It is. It's almost finished, and it's just that last bit that...
The last bit is overly complex, and we've actually found pictures. We found pictures of the top, and it doesn't actually look that good.
Right,
if you recall.
Did we?
Yeah, the ribbing looks very wide.
This is the frustrating thing. The pictures on the pattern page and
they're
in the
all
pattern,
covered up.
It's covered up. She's got a
mysteriously
scarf around her neck.
Yes. So we will find a way through, and we will get finished.
Yes, we will. We will.
Started the sleeve, which I'm very excited about, because I really enjoyed knitting the 3 sleeves I knit for the Radari.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
Oh, don't make that mistake again.
It's great practice.
Well...
That's where I knitted the wrong size,
Sunset,
isn't it?
Yeah, you did.
I knitted the children's.
You did. Have you cast on the right number? Are you sure? Well, you better double check it, right?
I'm sure I have. I'm sure it says 44 stitches.
Are you working from the book?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Sleeves, 44 stitches.
Yes,
Woo-hoo!
That's correct.
Oh, please tell me it's right.
I can see way over there.
It is, yes. Cool. So I'm just about to start the colour work, which is wonderful. The colour work doesn't last long, and then I'll be into the increases and knitting up the sleeve. And I do enjoy knitting up the sleeve when you're increasing. It's fun.
So you don't mind Sleeve Island? You don't mind being on Sleeve Island?
I'll go live there.
Look, honey, this is super.
This is called a long tail cast on.
Yeah, but look, this yarn, you can just do that.
Now that's a short tail cast on. That's not a cast on.
That's plenty to weave in.
You've changed it now.
You don't need all of that. It just gets in your way.
Look, what else is on your needles?
So the last thing I'm working on is my sock garland, and I've found a very handy way of displaying all of the socks.
Oh, wow.
That I've done so far. I've put them on my needle. I was like, how on earth can I show everybody these socks? And I've put them on my needle. So last time I showed you, I'd done 8. I believe now I've done 14. Come on. So look, hold me that. And look. If we hold it like a little, oh look. If I sort of bend it, can you see all of the lovely colours? It actually doesn't display it as well as I was really excited about this, and it's really not that brilliant. There we go. Look.
We've discussed what's needed for display purposes.
Yes, I know how I'm going to display these, and it's not like this. I have thought of a much prettier way of displaying these when I take the photo. So I've now got 14, and I'll show you the sort of new ones. I'll take them off the little needle and show you. I'm using an Addy lace to knit these as well. This is a 2.5mm, and this is one of the older ones too, with the different needle tip. So these are my mini sock bunting is what I've called it, and last time I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I was up to there, so I had all of these. So these were the last ones that you saw, and I've done these since. So a little plain one. I love this colour. I think it was, I can't remember. Oh no, I can tell you the colour. I can tell you because I've got them written down. It's Dusky Coral. Isn't it pretty? So this one's Dusky Coral, a little plain one. And then we've got Mango, and this has got the little eyelet lace on it. I love that colour too. And then we've got Pumpkin, beautiful orange.
That's lovely.
And it's gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then Strawberry Cream. This was always one of my favourite pinks.
Oh, yeah.
And this is my favourite one with this little, it's like a little strand of fairy lights, I think. And then I love this pink as well, and this is Crocus, another little plain one. And then we've got Garnet Red, yes, Garnet Red, and this has got the little swirly pattern. And look, can you see? I've missed a pearl bump right there in the middle. Oh well, don't tell anyone. And then the last one I've just finished is this one, and this is Raspberry. They're all gorgeous colours, aren't they? And this one, because it's darker actually, it shows the little heel really nicely. So this design will be the September pattern, platinum pattern for our patrons. So we're not quite into July yet, are we? So I've still got plenty of time. I've got 10 more to knit, so that's fine. They're actually really quick to knit, so I'm fitting them in around other projects that I'm working on. And you can easily knit one of these in maybe, it probably take, if I was to time myself, it might take me 3 hours or so to knit one if I was just to focus and knit straight through it, but usually I don't focus that well. I'm usually a bit distracted. So it's got this lovely little hanging loop which is integrated in, so you don't sew that on afterwards. It's all part of the sock. So it's top down, and then it's got this lovely little pretend short row heel. I've called it my butterfly heel because the shape of it, if you were to sort of just look at the heel itself, it does look a bit like a butterfly.
And this is a brand new heel that you've created specifically?
It is. It's based on a technique that I found openly out there in the world, but I changed it quite a lot. I changed the way that it works and took out one of the rows and changed something else. So this is my version of it. And
you'll be sharing this within the Knitting University, actually.
Yes.
There's a course coming out in August.
August it'll be for that one. I've put it into, I've showed you before, the DK weight sock with the mohair held. It's in that as well. I sort of supersized it up and used it in a real size sock. And it works brilliantly well. It fits on the foot really well.
Knitting University is, of course, that's where you get the pattern and you get lots of video lectures from Kay how to complete it.
But within this pattern, I am going to put a couple of video tutorials as well. I'm going to put a tutorial in on how we do this hanging loop attachment and then casting on, because that I've totally made up. I didn't think it was possible to do what I wanted to do, but I figured it out. So that I've completely made up that. And then I'm also going to show you how to do the heel and then how to close the gaps on either side. And the closing of the gaps on either side, I've completely made that up myself as well. I've just created my own technique to close up those gaps. So that's all of the ones I've done so far. And I've got this many to go. These are the colours that are remaining, which are really nice. So I'm sort of working my way through. I'm going into the end of the purples, and then I've got blues and greens, and then a couple of browns at the end, because I didn't want black. I didn't want to go that dark, but I did want a sort of darker end. I've gone from a gradient of sort of light through to dark, and I think that's really pretty. And I made up my own little sock blocker. I've showed you before, but it's just made out of quilter's template plastic. And this will be in the pattern as well. So I've got all that going on at the moment, but I'm making good progress. I'm pleased with the progress that I've made on those. And I just need to really get cracking and finish off those last 10. But I think it's going to look lovely, and the way that I want to display them as well. For, you know, for me, for future use at Christmas, because I think you can get, you know, it's a nice little size. You can definitely get a little present in there and definitely a couple of chocolates. So I'll be using these for Bryony, I think, at Christmas. I think she'll really like that.
It's time for a brand new My Favourite Colourways. We know you love this show, and we're delighted that Kay is back with a brand new episode. It is, of course, the start of summer, and there's only one way that we could possibly celebrate that. And that is, of course, with a colourway inspired by that traditional of English summertime treats, the strawberry.
Over the last 6 years, I have created more colourways than I can remember. Hidden away in my library is the little book that contains nearly all my secrets. But which do I like best? Well, I thought it would be fun to find out, so in this show, that's what we're going to be doing. I'll be taking you from undyed skein to finished colourway, because it's time for us to discover Welcome everyone to another My Favourite Colourways. Now, today is actually a very special day. As we film this, it's the summer solstice today, and it's gloriously cool and rainy, which makes me very happy. The fact that it's now summer is really appropriate to this colourway that I've chosen today, because not only is it well and truly summer now, it's also the sort of peak strawberry season in this country, and there really is nothing better than English strawberries, I don't think anyway. So I've been saving this colourway for just this time, and I dyed this colour first of all last year at some time. I can't remember exactly when. Probably about the same time of year actually, when all the strawberries were around, and I just wanted to get that perfect strawberry colour. And it's more, the colour that I was after was more the colour when you slice into a strawberry and you look inside it and you get that sort of graduated colour through to the centre, which is much paler than the outside. So it's that kind of pinky, sort of almost verging on a little bit sort of peachy maybe in the middle. That's how I see it anyway. So I was always after that perfect strawberry colour. So I spent some time last year just fiddling about with different dye colours and mixing them and just trying to get that perfect colour that I was after, that I'd got in my head. So I worked that out, and then of course I needed a leaf colour to go with it, because there's nothing prettier, I don't think, than a strawberry with the lovely green leaf on the top. So I wanted to make that green colour to go with the lovely strawberry. And again, I sort of got all my greens out and just played around with different combinations until I found that sort of perfect, it's kind of like a sort of dull green, I see it as. So I've got that as well sorted out. So I dyed that up last year, and I made a lovely pair of socks that had, it was actually the pattern from last year's Knitty You, one of the patterns from last year's Knitty You, that had a little eyelet just dotted all over it. And I thought it looked like strawberry seeds. So I knit it up with this yarn, and they turned out to be really pretty, shorty, summery socks, and I've got those to show you. They have been well worn by Bryony, but I will show you those later as well. So the name that I gave to this kind of set of colours is Pick Your Own Strawbs, because in this country you very often see, you know, during the summer again, you'll drive past farmers' fields and you'll see these signs. They actually say P.Y.O. Strawbs, pick your own strawbs. And you can go and just get a basket and fill it with strawberries yourself. So I thought that was a perfect name. So that's what we're going to be dyeing today. Pick your own strawbs. So it's time now to see exactly what we're going to need to dye up our lovely yarn. Okay, so what are we going to need to dye up our lovely yarn today? Well, we're going to need the yarn. And I've got 3 skeins of fingering weight yarn. This is, I think this is the same base that I used last time actually. So it's a 80, 15, 5, I think. It's 80% superwash merino, 15 nylon, 5 stellina. 18, 15, 5, yes, that's right. So it's a fingering weight with sparkle in it basically, and it's a lovely gold sparkle. And I've got 3 skeins. So I'm going to be dyeing 2 skeins in the strawberry colour and then 1 in the leaf colour. Because I find that I don't ever need as much of the green, it's more that that's like a contrast to it. I've already put them onto little cable ties. These are lockable and they come undone again. Cable ties, I've had these for quite a few years now. Very, reusable and really handy. And you do really need a tie on your yarn to sort of move it around in the pot and lift it out and things like that. So I've got my 3 skeins of yarn, and these are 100 grams each. I've then got my dye book with my recipe in it, really important. I had written this recipe down, but I was a bit vague, so I did have a little trial a couple of days ago in a DK base, and I will show you that actually. We're going to skein that one up later. Really nice, turned out really nice. I've got some old tea towels just to protect the work surface. You can use, if you want, you can use like a piece of oilcloth, like here on the table. This is oilcloth. I find that that's really good as well. Just if you've got any sort of little offcuts of that, that's really good for protecting your work surfaces. Rubber gloves, one of which has got a hole in, but we're going to work with that. I've got my mask, really important. You must always wear a mask when you're dyeing yarn. We've then got our citric acid, which is our mordant. The mordant is the substance that will make the dye permanently stick to the yarn. I use citric acid because I find it's clean and it doesn't smell, really easy to use. So we've got that. My big dyeing spoon, I'm going to need that today. You missed it last time. I've got just one little measure that I'm going to be using to measure out the quantity of dye, and it's the one I always use. It's the teaspoon that's 1/8 of a teaspoon measure. And then we've got our dye pots, stainless steel, sort of a casserole pot I use, but as with all of the things that you use for your dyeing, you should only use them for dyeing, don't use them for anything else. So I've got 2 stainless steel pots, and then just a plastic washing up bowl for rinsing and soaking our yarn. And then finally the dyes, the most important thing really, isn't it? We can't dye yarn without them. And this time we're actually using 6 colours. I'm going to use 4 to dye up the strawberry colour and then 2 for the leaf colour. Now they're all jacquard dyes this time. I do, more often than not, I do tend to use jacquard just because that's what's most easily obtainable for me here in the UK. But as with any of these colourways that I'm dyeing up, if you can't get a hold of these colours, just have a look at what the colour is. You can get charts for all of the sort of dye brands online very easily, and you can just look at the colour that it dyes up as. They have little sort of swatches, and then you can just substitute it for whatever dye you can get hold of that's the closest colour if you can't get hold of the jacquard. So the colours we're going to be using for the leaf colour, we use 2 different dyes. We use emerald, which is 629, and olive, which is 634. And then for the strawberry colour, I've got 3 kind of red shades. We've got pink, which is 608. We've got fire red. Fire red is like a really true red for me, and that's 618. and then we've got vermilion, which is 611, and then the final colour is Aztec Gold, and that's 633. So that's all of the dyes you're going to need and everything else. So now the first thing we've got to do is to soak the yarn. Okay, so in my bowl here, I've just filled it, I don't know, a third of the way up with just some warm water from the tap. This is just plain water. I haven't added any citric acid at this point. The reason I don't do that when I'm soaking a sparkle yarn is because if you expose the sparkle, the stellina or whatever it is, to the acid for too long, it can dull the sparkle. So what I tend to do is I give it a good soak in plain water first of all for maybe half an hour or so, and then I'll just put in maybe a tablespoon or so of citric acid and just let it have about 10 minutes. So it's had a bit of a soak with the citric acid but not too long. So I'm just going to pop in my 3 skeins and push that down. It goes in really easily if the water's nice and warm. And then just let this have a soak in the plain water. If it's not a sparkle yarn that you're using, just a standard yarn without the sparkle, then put in your citric acid straight away. So put in sort of a tablespoon or so of citric acid straight away and let it have that sort of half-hour soaking. So I'm just going to get that all in the water. Let that hang out, like I said, for half an hour or so. It can be longer if you want, doesn't really matter. But I give it at least half an hour. And then I will pop in a bit of citric acid just for that last 10 minutes. So while that's having a soak, we're going to go and organise everything over by the stove, ready to start our dyeing. Right, so I've got a pot of water here that's heating up and it's about half full, and I've popped in there some citric acid, about, I don't know, tablespoon and a half. I'm usually sort of more generous with it because I like to make sure there's enough in there. So we've got the citric acid in there, we've got about half a pot of water and that's heating up. And we're now going to put the dyes into the pot. So this is a tonal yarn, but it does have a bit of variegation as well. So to create that sort of base strawberry colour, I'm going to put in the 3 sort of pink and red tones. Just dump it straight into the pot. And what I like to do to make sure that I know, because it is easy to get distracted, I sort of line up my colours here, and as I put one in, I'll put the lid back on and move the spoon, etc. Just so I know that I've done that one, then I've done that one, then I've done that one, because once it starts going in, you won't be able to tell just by looking at the colour. It's sort of like 2 layers, this one. So in this initial layer, I'm going to put in about 1/4 of an 1/8 of a teaspoon of each of the colours. Now, however you do this, you want equal parts of each of those 3 pink and red shades. So I'll pop my mask on and we will get that in the pot. So the first colour I'm going to put in is the pink. So it's about 1/4 of an 1/8. Just dump that in, lid on, over to the next one, and I just give the little spoon a wipe. It's dry, it just gets rid of the last colour. So this one is vermilion. Vermilion is like a pinky red. And again, about 1/4 of an 1/8. I love to see it all go psh, like that on the water, it's really cool. And then the final red is fire red. This is a new pot, I think, so it might have, yeah. Just remove that. And then same, about 1/4 of an 1/8 of a teaspoon of this one. This is a really intense red, but it's a really lovely red. So that's all of the pinky shades in, and then get your big spoon and give it a good stir. Once you've got all your dyes into your water like that and it's all dispersed, you don't need to keep your mask on if you don't want to, because it's now in the water. We've not got any powders flying around. Let's turn the heat up a little bit. I don't want it to be a rolling boil or anything like that when the yarn goes in. Just, you know, nicely, very warm to hot kind of temperature. It doesn't even matter if it's not too hot at this stage, because we will bring it up to temperature. So just give that a really good stir, because we want to make sure we get rid of all of those dye particles, dissolve them into the water. Once we've got all that stirred in, we can now pop our yarn in. And when I put it in, I'm going to do this fairly quickly. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, and then I'll do it, if you know what I mean. So I'm just going to drop the yarn in quickly, completely, put it all in, and then I'm going to quickly move the skein around on the ties and then drop it back in again. And the reason I do that is that even though this is a tonal with a very slight variegation, you can still get some sort of regularity and kind of, you know, some stripes can appear and pooling with a tonal yarn. And it's because, you know, when we dump that yarn in, the first bit that we put in like this, that's going to get more dye than the bit that goes in last. So by moving it quickly, we're just going to break up that sort of regularity. And then also when we do the second layer, that also will help with making this more of a sort of random tonal, if you like. Right, so I'm going over to my bowl here. I'm going to take 2 of the skeins out and give them a squidge. And then give them a little shake just to release those strands, separate them off a bit. Get my spoon ready. So in it goes, sort of move it around as we put it in. So that's it all in, and now I'm going to quickly lift it up and then move it a bit, because it will absorb into that yarn really quickly, that colour. And now drop it back down, and then I tend to sort of move it around a bit with the spoon like this, and again this will help to distribute the colour and avoid any of that sort of regularity that we can get. We don't want a solid colour by any means. We do want this to be tonal, but it will be tonal. I mean, I can already see that this bit here is light and this bit here is darker, so you will get tones in there. And if we lift this up, we can already see that the pot is really pretty much clear. So we can now get ready for the second layer. And before I do that, I'm just going to move it slightly on the skein. Normally when I do this, I would lift the skeins out of the pot and put them into the bowl while I'm adding in the second lot of dye, but I've still got a skein of yarn in my bowl and I don't have another one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this. I'm going to lift up the skein and hold them up there, and then I'm going to put the dye in. It's not ideal because you've got to hold the skeins up there, and it can get a bit heavy, but it works perfectly fine. But if you've got 2 washing up bowls, then I would suggest that you take the yarn out, pop it in the bowl, and then put the dye in. Do it that way. So I'm now going to add in some more dye. Now really at this stage, it's up to you how much more you add in. You could look at that skein and think, well, that's a lovely soft colour, I really like that. You know, you could leave it at that point. I want it just to be a bit more intense. So I'm going to add in probably about the same amount again, but maybe a little bit less than I did before, just to really intensify those shades. And then get your big spoon. Give that a good swirl around. As it goes in, just move it around with your spoon. Again, I'll just hold that in there for a second, and then pick it up, move those skeins, and then drop it back down one final time. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this now up to temperature. So by that I mean It is steaming, you might not be able to see, but it is steaming at the moment. I just want it to start simmering, and then I know that's plenty hot enough to set that colour. So when it's at that stage, I'm just going to turn down the heat to its lowest setting, and then we'll do the final sort of wash of colour. Okay, so you can see that colour is now totally gone. Really only takes a few minutes, doesn't take very long at all. And we're now ready to put on the sort of last wash of colour. And what this shade does is it kind of makes that slightly, it's not even, I mean, it's an orange shade that I'm putting in there, but it's hard to describe, but for me it just makes that sort of slight variation of strawberry colour that you get when you look inside a strawberry. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I need to dump in some more colour. So again, if I had another bowl, I'd be lifting the yarn out and putting it in the bowl, but I'm just going to lift it up, add in the colour, and then drop it back down. So I'm using the Aztec Gold now, and I'm going to put about the same amount, about 1/4 of an 1/8 of the teaspoon. That sounded wrong. It's an 1/8 of a teaspoon measure, and I'm using about 1/4 of that. So I'm just going to take the lid off and then get it ready. So again, it's about 1/4 of an 1/8. So lift, get your spoon. And actually I can tell by the colour there that I need a bit more. So I'm just going, I don't think I had quite a 1/4 there, I think it was a little bit less. I'm just going to dump a bit more in. There we go, that's better. So now I'm going to drop this yarn down fairly quickly. Leave it a few seconds. And again, I'm just going to lift it and move it just for that last bit of dye that's in there. There we go. And that little tint of orange is just going to help with that colour. So now, I'll just put that top back on, take my mask off, and I'm just going to crank up the heat again. It won't take long because we already had it up to temperature. And then once it starts to simmer, I'm going to turn the heat off and then set it out to cool, and then we can do the green. Right, so onto the green. This is a sort of simpler version of the way we've dyed up the red, because we've just got 2 colours going in for this. So I'm using the emerald and the olive, and I've got about 1/3 of a pot full of water here actually, with about a tablespoon of the citric acid. I tend to use the least amount of water that I need to for that particular colour, just to conserve water. You know, I'm just very aware we shouldn't be using too much. So there's about 1/3 of a pot in there because I'm only dyeing 1 skein. So I'm going to pop into there about 1/2 of my 1/8 teaspoon of each of the 2 colours. So I've got the emerald. This is actually a colour that by itself, the green by itself, I'm not keen on at all, but by adding the olive to it, it changes it entirely. Okay, it looks brown when it goes in that olive, but it is an olive green. So I'm going to mix those up. It looks quite intense when you first put it in, but it's not as sort of intense when you put the yarn in. I'm going to put the yarn in like I did before and move it around, and then we'll just see what the colour looks like. It might be that I need to add a bit more dye. I tend to judge it by eye and just by my memory of what it looked like last time, because unless you're weighing your dyes, which you need one of the scientific little scales because it's such a small amount, unless you're weighing it, it can vary each time, you know, depending on how much dye gets popped in there. So I'm just going to judge it by eye when the yarn goes in and see if we need to add a bit more. So let's get my gloves on and we will put the yarn in. So give that a squish. And pop it in. And I tend to, if I do that, it gives me an idea on the sort of strength of the colour when it goes in. So all in again like that. And then I'll quickly move it around. And then just give it a nice move around as that dye starts to absorb. And I think looking at it, we do need to have that a little bit more of an intense colour, so I think we will add another layer. You can see already it's almost gone from the water. So let's have a little look at that colour. Yeah, I'm going to add a bit more, so let's just move that. You do sometimes find that the skein gets looped. Can you see here? It's got sort of looped around. You sometimes get strands that just come loose and sort of wrap themselves around, but if you just sort of move around your skein, there you go, it loosens it all off. So let's move that to there. There we go. And I'm going to pop a bit more of the dye in. So equal parts. I'm just doing, there isn't a quarter, it's maybe about a quarter of a teaspoon of each. Let's see what colour we get there. That looks fine. And then I'm going to pop it back down. Just let that sit a minute, and I'll just put the lids back on my pots because I think that green will be okay now. And just move it around. But if you want your greens more intense, or if you want them softer, just really have a play around with your dyes. It's entirely up to you what you do. But that to me looks about right. And we've still got some green in there that needs absorbing, so that'll be fine. So I'm just going to let that come up to simmering again, turn it off, and then pop it outside to join the strawberry colour. So there we go. That's our yarn all dyed up, and it's now cooling in the pots. So come back in part 2. We're going to rinse that yarn, we're going to set it to dry, we're going to skein it up, and I'm also going to show you some yarn that I dyed up a few days ago. It's a different base, same colourway, different base, so I thought that would be fun to show you as well. So I'll see you back soon.
Go to the foot of our stairs. Those colourways look summery.
They are summery.
Oh my goodness, the strawberry is just unbelievable because
it's a gorgeous colour.
There's so much, so right what you just said in the show there. When you cut through a strawberry, there's so many colours going on.
Yeah, and it can get very pale in the centre.
Yeah, I know. And it totally, so far anyway, it's looking exactly like a strawberry. The green, though, I think really sort of brings it all together.
I really like the green.
That's what makes it strawberry-y.
It's that very kind of non-shiny green of a leaf, when you get that dull green,
To me, what this just brings back memories of is picking your own with my brothers.
Pick your own, yeah.
When we used to go.
Yeah.
I remember where we used to go to do it. And to be honest, I never really enjoyed picking strawberries. It was too hard.
Yeah, it was hard work.
Because you got to be clever.
I never picked strawberries when I was really young. We used to go pea picking.
Right.
Oh, and that was amazing, picking.
I'll tell you my favourite thing.
Fresh peas out of the pod.
Correct.
Fabulous. And we used to eat the pods as well. We used to sort of chew on the pods. It tasted absolutely gorgeous.
What I used to enjoy going to pick were raspberries and gooseberries.
Because they're higher up, aren't they? It's like a bush rather than down on the ground.
I remember huge, long, that you'd walk along picking them.
Yeah.
But the reason, gooseberries were probably the best. And the reason why I liked the gooseberries the most was because they were easier to throw.
What a waste. That's boys, isn't it? Throwing gooseberries at each other.
What you need one that's just a bit too ripe so that when it hits, it explodes.
Squashes.
Perfect. But raspberries are great. But the fruit that I enjoyed picking the most, because you'd eat as much as you bought.
Oh, yeah, you could eat as much as you wanted, yeah.
Well, I don't think you were supposed to do that.
Well, I don't know. Nobody ever stopped you.
Are you kidding?
Everybody does that, don't they? I thought everybody did that.
It's not very fair on the farmer, is it?
Well, I suppose it's not when you think about it, but I just thought everybody ate a few.
What the farmer should do
I'm not
is...
talking loads, but, you know, you would eat a few.
The farmer should charge you for 1.5 times what you buy.
Yeah, probably should.
But Loganberries.
Loganberries. Are they the ones that are very long, or is
Yes.
that... Oh, right.
Just gorgeous.
Right.
And my mum used to make Loganberry jam.
Wow.
It was just...
I've never had a Loganberry.
Is
it like, what's it cross between?
Well, I can remember that it's part raspberry.
Yeah,
I can't
because it
remember
looks like a raspberry, doesn't it? But it's darker in colour, isn't it?
Yeah, every one of them tasted like the perfect raspberry.
Wow.
Raspberries, you'll get a good one.
Yeah.
You might get an average one.
Yeah.
These always all
Right.
tasted great. It seemed like a more robust fruit.
See, when we have our garden in whatever house we have in the future, we'll grow Loganberries.
Let's do it.
Yes.
That'd be amazing.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Make Loganberry pies and jams and ooh.
Now then, I'm seeing some gorgeous projects down here. So I think it's
Yes.
time that I shut up. Well, no.
Always.
I can't shut up because I've got to ask, Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
I finished 2 things, and the first thing I finished is my 1971 socks.
Look at those.
Look, they sort of match my top today, don't
Totally.
they, with brightness? Oh, how lovely are these? I'm so pleased with them. And what I really like is that the yarn, sometimes with some yarns, your second sock can look different to your first sock, can't it? Depending on how it's been dyed. And that actually, I think, is my top pet peeve, if you like. You know, if I'm knitting a pair of socks, I want them to look as much as possible like each other in terms of how the dye is distributed. And so, you know, I really try to make sure that that colour is all the way through the skein. And I just really like that I've got 2 socks which are really lovely and colourful. So this was the yarn that I dyed up for my birthday, and you can dye up a skein if you want to as well. Just go back and watch that episode. And then the purple is also a skein that I dyed on, I don't know if it was that same episode or the one before. And the colour of dye was sorbet, that was landscape dyes, this purple. And I just thought it went really nicely. And the pattern I've used is my crunkled socks.
They're just gorgeous.
Design. I followed it
They look so lovely.
exactly to pattern. And I just think they look lovely. The only thing I did differently was I knit them on 2.5mm instead of 2.25. So just wanted a pair of socks that were a little bit more stretchy. So I was going to keep these for myself, but I'm kind of tempted to give them to Bryony because I know she'll really like them.
Yeah.
And she really likes socks that are kind of nicely fitting on her foot. She doesn't like really sucky in socks. So I think she'll really like these just to sort of wear around the house. So I might give those to her.
Perfect.
So that's those. And then I also finished your walking hat.
Wow.
This is the hat I was knitting for Dan, look. And I love how I managed to get the decreases. I'm really pleased with that.
Oh, that's lovely.
What I wanted to do was to maintain that cable as long as I could, and I really did, I think. I'm really pleased. I think it's lovely. So do you want to pop it on?
Okay. Slightly nervous.
Why are you saying okay like that?
Oh no, it feels great. Oh, it's perfect.
Oh, no, it's up at the front, that's it. See, that's nice. Put your head down so we can see the decreases. Oh, look at that. That's so pretty, isn't it? That's really nice. So I'm pleased with that. I think it's really nice. And I used the uncommon thread, and it was just a pure merino base. I can't remember the exact base, but it was just 100% superwash, superfine merino. And the colourway was smudge. It's a fingering weight, but it's a really nice plump fingering weight. And it may be that I write this pattern up, but it'll probably be later in the year because we're not really in hat season right now.
No.
So
And this won't be making its debut.
no, until
okay, it'll be October.
October probably.
And that'll be really towards the end of the series.
Yeah, so maybe if I write this up, it'll be round
Let's
more
save it
like
for the next
October.
series.
But I think it's really nice hat. I'm pleased with
It's gorgeous. Thank you so much.
That's okay. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed designing it, enjoyed knitting it for you. So you can have that now. There you go.
Thank you so much.
Brian, I'll give those to
It's so great. Hey, look. we've been enjoying our strawberries, and I wonder why strawberries and cream are... Is it Wimbledon? Is that what? But why did Wimbledon start serving strawberries and cream? Because strawberries and cream are synonymous.
Quintessentially English, aren't they?
And why is it that... Is it the conditions in this country that lead to really good strawberries?
I would have thought so.
That must be.
Yeah, I'm sure you get very good strawberries in other countries as well, but
for some reason, we seem to be famous for strawberries.
Yeah,
so.
I think they are very good English strawberries, but you've got to have them in season.
The best ones we've found are Annabelle's, which you can buy from Ocado, but also Booths
sell them as well. Annabelle's.
But I'm sure you'll find them elsewhere.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
They are literally stunning. But look, let's talk of strawberries. Let's go back and see how this gorgeous pick your own Strawbs colourway is going to finish up.
Welcome back, everyone, to part 2 of my favourite colourways and the lovely pick your own Strawbs set that we've dyed up. The yarn is now cool and we're going to bring it in and we're going to give it a rinse and set it to dry, and then we'll have a look at it and skein it up and all that goodness. So let's get on. Right, so our lovely yarn has cooled now and I'm going to give it a rinse. So I've got in my bowl here, I've just filled it with some warm water and a little bit of wool wash, and I'm going to do the red first. You can see there's no dye at all left in there. I do sometimes find there's a little bit of green left, so we'll see when we do that one. So just squidge and then drop it in. And the reason we rinse it is to get rid of the excess citric acid. We want to get that out of the yarn. We don't want that to stay in there. And also just to get rid of any sort of tiny bits of dye particles that might be floating around. And it also makes it smell nice, which is a bonus. So I just give it a good sort of wish around there in the soapy water. If you use a wool wash, these tend to be no rinse, so you don't have to rinse them afterwards. And we've got the water's lovely and clear in there, so we've not got any dye bleeding out, so we know that that's a good set of the dye. And then give it a nice squidge. Never wring your yarn, you should never wring it. I just give it a nice gentle squeeze. Pop it there and then I'll do the green. And it's pretty clear in there, which is good. So all of that green's exhausted. It's got the sort of the merest hint of green in there. I do find that that emerald green, you do sometimes get a little bit of residue left in there. So pop that in again. Give it a nice swim around in the water. And again, that's running nice and clear, so we know that that dye is set nicely. And today we've got a very strange summer day actually. We have had lots of warm weather recently, but today it isn't. It's very dull and grey, and we've had a bit of drizzle, and it's only about 11 degrees out there, but it is quite blowy. It's not raining at the moment, so I am just going to leave this out on the line for a bit and see if we can get it at least almost dry outside. Okay, so our yarn is actually still drying. It's a really bad drying day today, but it doesn't matter because I've got the yarn that I dyed a couple of days ago and we're going to skein that up. Now, this was a DK weight. I had a few skeins of DK weight in my undyed stash, so I thought it'd be fun to have some DK weight as well. And this is also a 75/25, so I could use this for some lovely socks, which will just be so fun. So I did the same as I've just done. I did 2 skeins of the strawberry and 1 skein of the leaf colour, which actually I think matches my lovely Packers top really well. So that's pretty good. And what I also did was I threw in there the minis that I'd like to put in. I didn't put it, you probably noticed, some of you might have noticed, oh, she's not put in her little Dyer's Treat. It's because I did it the other day. So I've already got these 2 lovely 20 gram minis that are just for me. And I was thinking I might make some wrist ticklers with these and sort of switch the colours around, do cuffs in one and body in the other, and they'd make some really nice Christmassy wrist ticklers. Some people have said actually when they've seen this colour, and I do agree that it kind of reminds them of watermelon. So if you want to, think to yourself that it's a watermelon colour, go for it. And then the other thing that it's brilliant for is we're just sort of coming into July soon, aren't we? And the whole Christmas in July. So it could actually work as a Christmas colourway as well. And I did think if you wanted to treat it as a watermelon colour, what I would do is I would add in some little black speckles on top of the red colour for the seeds in the watermelon. I think that would work really well. But what we're going to do now is skein these ones up. I've already got my minis done. So I've got 2 of the red, as I said, and 1 of the green. I've already cut off the ties because I tidied these up a bit. You can't tell actually, it looks really messy now, doesn't it? But I cut off the sort of excess ties on these. If you ever get a skein and it turns into a messy mess like that, if you find one of the ties and sort of grab it and pull it away like that, you'll find where the actual skein is and you can just pop your hand in. So I've just got 2 ties on this skein now, which for me is fine. And I like to have the ties top and bottom here where my hands are. And then that way the ties are sort of incorporated up in the twist at the top and you don't have to look at them within the main body of the skein. It just makes it look a bit prettier, I think. So I've got it all, so the strands are all nice and even. The skein isn't twisted, it's all in the sort of same direction, so I just need to skein it up. Seven twists for this, and I like to twist it until it feels quite tight, but it does kind of loosen up a bit when you sort of put it into the skein itself. So and then just twist it back and give it a little pull and then tuck one end in the other. And those ties then are all up here and it makes the skein look a bit prettier. There's one of my hairs there, take that out. So that's the green. And sometimes I find, particularly with this DK base, that you do sometimes get those sort of longer strands that don't seem to be longer than the rest of the skein. And if you end up with like a strand that's a bit longer like that, I just kind of tuck it in like that, just to make the skein look a bit tidier, because I like everything to look neat and tidy. Just pretty it up. And I know it's just going in your stash, but it might be a gift for someone and you want it to look pretty. There we go. So that's that. So I'm going to skein up the 2 reds now and then we'll take a closer look at this lovely yarn. Beautiful pick your own Strawbs. The thing I love the most about this, the red, I say red but it's more of a pinky sort of colour, isn't it? But I love how you get that slight orangey tone to it because of that wash we put over the top of it. And to me it really looks like that paler colour of a strawberry when you cut into it. I love, the tones in it. We get paler bits, we get slightly more intense bits, and then that sort of orangey colour on top. I love it. It also reminds me of, do you know that ice cream? Do they still make them called a Mivvy? Do they still make Mivvies? I don't know, but it was like a strawberry ice lolly on the outside and then it had like ice cream, vanilla ice cream in the middle. Kind of reminds me of the colour of that as well, which is also a summery thing. So we've got the lovely green, which is this, it's a really nice sort of flat green, if you know what I mean by that. It's, I don't know, it just to me looks like the colour of strawberry leaves. It's that sort of dull colour. dull green colour. Not shiny, it's not a shiny colour, is it? And I've got a couple of things here that I've knit with this colourway. I've got brownie socks that I mentioned before. I knit these last year. She's worn these such a lot. She wore these all through kind of last summer because they're little shorties. So they are looking a bit worn. Don't look too much at the bottom. She's really heavy on her socks. But she really loves these and still wears them. And this little sort of eyelet pattern I put in, I think looks like the little strawberry seeds. And then the contrast. The cuffs, heels and toes, I think they're really lovely. Works perfectly, I think, for a summer sock. And then I also put some of the pinky reddy colour into my jelly roll. It was one of the first colours I put in. So this was the first strip that I started with on the jelly roll. It's that way up actually, isn't it? Doesn't really matter. So this was the first strip. I had to start with pink because you know what I'm like for pink. And here it is. Here's the original that sort of came from these socks. It was leftovers from the socks. So some of it went in. I didn't actually have any of the green left when I was putting the green into this, so there isn't any of the green in it, which would have been a shame. If I'd had some left, I could have put it next to the pink, couldn't I? And they would have been side by side. But I got some of the lovely strawberry colour in, which I was really pleased about. So that's my lovely jelly roll. And the beautiful socks, and that's the yarn all done. So you can now go away and dye up your own, pick your own Strawbs, and even if you can't get English strawberries in the country that you're in, I'm sure you'll be able to get some delicious strawberries in any case. So dye yourself up some yarn, maybe get a bowl of strawberries, a bit of a dollop of cream on there, and get casting on a lovely project. So I will see you again next time for another lovely My Favourite Colourways.
Well, that was just lovely.
Oh, did you like it?
But, do you know what? My favourite bit of this show is when we see things which you've knitted using the colourways.
Yes, I try and do that.
It's wonderful seeing the lovely socks because they've obviously had a year's worth of pretty hard wear.
Yes.
And they're still looking great. But also, it was so beautiful, and you've got it there.
Yes, I've got it.
To see it in the jelly roll, and
Yes.
especially with it being in the very first strip.
Yeah.
So, like
because I just loved this colourway so much that I deliberately
saved it.
Yeah, and I put it in that it's there, look, in the very first strip.
I mean, it couldn't be more
This colour here.
A little bit of summer in the blanket, which is going to keep you warm in the autumn and the winter. It couldn't be better. Oh, yes. And you really did. I mean, you've got the yarn here, haven't you?
Yes, I've got the yarn here. So
look. Look at the sparkly ones.
Oh, yeah, I'll show you that. So this is the DK weight that I showed you on the show. So that's the DK weight. And then I've got here the fingering weight that I actually dyed. So this is the yarn that you saw me dye. So here we go. Oh, look at that. Isn't it beautiful?
It's gorgeous.
I
sparkle
just love
really.
It. Yeah, can you see the sparkle? I think you can.
Yeah.
Look at the sparkle. We've really managed to maintain the sparkle.
Yeah.
I think, and it just looks beautiful.
It is just lovely.
Oh, it's so, I love the red, and what I love is all the different, can you see all the different tones, look, within it?
Yeah.
It just knit up so prettily.
Yeah.
And I think what I will do is I will split this green into two 50-gram skeins, and then I will keep one skein with the 50 grams and then the other skein with the other 50 grams I will use as a prize at some point, maybe for our patron prizes that we do through the year, or maybe for a knit along. But I will definitely use some of this even as a prize.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Kay will be back in July with another My Favourite Colourway, because next time we're going to be walking the moors once again. And this is a walk I've been looking forward to all series, because we're going to be going in search of an abbey which my mum visited in the 1950s.
Wow.
And it inspired her so much when she visited that she just sat down and started drawing something.
Did she?
That's in the abbey, and we're going to go looking for what she drew. Sadly, she still...
Has she still got the drawing?
I think she has.
She never throws anything away. So
Because I think the reason why I learnt this story was I was at my mum's and I think she'd found it in a book, because I can see a book that wasn't a drawing book and there's like writing in it. And I think it's at the back of the book.
Right.
And she was on a school trip, so maybe it was a school
Gosh,
book.
wow.
And there on the back is this drawing.
Right.
And the problem is, that's probably 15 years ago that conversation happened.
Right.
And I did speak to my mum and ask her, and she can't even remember...
Having the conversation.
She can't even remember doing the drawing. Tune into that next time. It's going to be the most amazing walk in a part of the moors that we've never been to before. Very quintessentially Yorkshire. Really looking forward to that. But now it's time for the Endy Bits. Oh, yes.
Endy Bits.
Now, the patron-only show is on Sunday at 2 p.m. live and 3:10 for the recording.
British summertime.
Indeed, thank you so much. And that is the 27th, isn't it? Yes, it's the 27th of June.
Right.
Now, we'll be posting a link to the show for those of you who can watch it live at 1:30 on our Patreon page, and then it will go live on our Patreon. Well, no, the recording will become available on our Patreon page at 3:10. So really looking forward this month to a pop show without any complete disasters.
No, we had a technical nightmare on the last one, but you've since found out.
Well, I contacted the people who make the software, who acknowledged that there was a little bit of a mistake and it was broken, and they fixed it. It wasn't just us, it was anyone who'd been using that software. If you scheduled a live show, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
But fear not, folks, because they may have said that it's fixed, but I also tested it.
Right.
I scheduled a live show.
Oh, you did, and
yes,
it worked.
Obviously a private live show.
Well, yes.
That sounds very wrong.
That sounds wrong, doesn't it?
But that is coming on Sunday. You know, you've already mentioned, Cals, the Jelly Roll, Cal, is ongoing.
Jelly Roll Knit Along is ongoing at the moment. It runs until the end of August. Is that right? Yes, until the end of August. So plenty of time to be knitting on your lovely Jelly Roll blankets. Here's mine. There's lots of chatter in the Ravelry group if you would like to join in there. And if you want to post pictures on Instagram, I had a few people asking me for a hashtag. You can just use hashtag JellyRollBlanket. That seems to have been used by lots of people, so please go ahead and use that if you would like to. So yeah, this is my lovely Jelly Roll blanket, and it's just been such a joy seeing all the different versions. One of my favourite versions is one that's been knitted using like opal yarns. It's absolutely gorgeous, because I had that vision in my head, and I'd actually started one. I have got it. I started one using the opal mini skeins, from the advent calendar, and it just looks fantastic, really colourful and just fun. And yeah, so I will definitely carry on with that at some point.
But special mention has got to go to the lady who has dyed up all the colourways that Kay has done in this season of My Favourite Colourways.
Yeah, she has.
Used that in the Jelly Roll,
Yeah.
but then also put a white bit in the middle,
Yeah.
and she's put a heart.
Yeah, she's done like short rows within each of the row to create like this heart in the middle. It's amazing. The creativity is just fantastic. So it's just been a real joy to see that. So thank you to everyone that's joining in with that.
And there's still loads of time to come and join in too.
Purchased their copy and has been knitting away on it. It's just lovely.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Now, we're getting ready for the release of our special summer edition of Knitability.
Yes.
It's very exciting.
Yes.
It's due out on the 1st of July. The sort of theme of the magazine is picnics.
Picnics.
Because what better is there in the summer than a picnic with some lovely strawberries and cream, maybe some pink fizz.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Did you like that?
Very good.
Yes. So yeah, don't miss on the 1st of July, our next edition. We'll have all the usual. We've got a wonderful interview actually with Lavanya Petrocella.
Right.
I hope I've said her name right.
Sounds
and
right.
Loads of other great things going on in that issue, so don't miss that out on the 1st. The radio show is back after our weather-enforced absence. Last week we were talking about parenting, the sort of older challenges of parenting, and what happens when your brood fly the nest. Next week we're going to be talking about the power of memories, so don't miss that. That will be out next Thursday for Bakery Bear patrons and Friday for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
We've been buying some stuff.
I've got a couple of things. Now the first one is quite random. I was watching old episodes of The Great British Sewing Bee on iPlayer. I'd gone right back to series 1 because they're all there on iPlayer, I discovered recently, and I thought, I'm going to go back and watch those. And I couldn't remember a lot of it, so I mean, that was great. And on one of the episodes, can't remember which, but they had to make bridesmaid dresses. And a couple of the sewers had used a fabric called silk taffeta. And it was just gorgeous. And they made reference to the fact that it was actually a really expensive fabric, but it was quite difficult to work with as well because it did fray quite easily. But I was so drawn by this fabric and I just thought it looked so beautiful. I thought, I'm going to go and have a look for some of that fabric. And I found a shop online. It's called Top Fabric. You could buy silk taffeta. It had a few different colours and you could buy it in smaller pieces because let me tell you, it's expensive. They weren't kidding when they said that. I think for a metre of fabric, normally you might pay, I don't know, £8, £9, £10 maybe for a metre of fabric. This is like goes up to £60 a metre. I just bought a little bit. Because I wanted to make a bag. I wanted to make a project bag with silk taffeta. Is that crazy? I just had this crazy thought when I was watching. I thought, how beautiful a project bag would that be made with silk taffeta? So I found some, and it's like a two-tone, and you can see how this frays actually. But it's a two-tone, pink and lime green. I mean, I don't know whether, look at that. I don't know if it's going to show up, but in some lights you can see the pink. Look, you can sort of see the pink there. And in some you can see the green. Oh, how beautiful is that? So I've just got this little piece to make myself a project bag. Look how it's fraying. I don't know what this is going to be like to sew. And it doesn't like steam, I've found out. I've been doing a bit of research because I don't want to muck this up, you know. It was an expensive fabric, even for a small piece. It doesn't like steam, because normally I would use iron-on squishy interfacing. So I don't know if I'm going to do that. I might just do an unlined bag, because it's quite a robust fabric. And if I use the lining fabric that's a medium weight cotton, I might not necessarily need to line it. But I just think it'll be fun. And I mean, look how gorgeous does that is. Can you imagine a dress?
It'd be amazing.
And like an evening dress or something. Oh my word, wouldn't that be fantastic?
Gorgeous.
I just thought it'd be fun. You know, it just made me think how much I love working with really beautiful yarns. And this is kind of the same thing, isn't it? So I'll keep you posted on that, on how that goes. And then the other thing that I purchased recently is, Dan and I have been talking about his next garment project for yourself.
Yeah.
And he wondered whether we could find a yarn which has similar properties to the Let Lopi, but is softer. Because the Let Lopi is robust, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but to be honest, all I'm looking for is something which has got the potential to be worn indoors
on a winter's day, for example. So
the Let Lopi I will wear outdoors. I'm not certain I'm particularly going to want to wear it too much indoors because it does have a very specific feel.
Yeah.
Also, though, as well, I am, and I've spoken about at length, I've worked very hard on developing a colourwork technique which enables me to knit with yarns which don't lend itself to colourwork.
Yeah.
So I'd like to knit with something which doesn't lend itself to colourwork, things that tend to be a bit squishier and a bit softer and a bit more lovely.
Yeah, and you wanted something light in weight as well, because Let Lopi is very light.
Yeah.
So I had a look around and I found this and I bought a ball, and I cast something on last night just to swatch, just to see what it was like. And I really love it and I want to knit a blanket in it. I think it'd be fantastic. It's Drops Air. It's the yarn. And this is kind of like a worsted weight, I think. It recommends a 5mm needle size. So I think it's sort of worsted weight, Aran weight is what it knits up to be. And it's a mixture of 65% alpaca, 28% polyamide, so nylon, and 7% wool. And I think the wool is merino, I think. So, and it's a blown yarn. Now this is quite a high-tech new way of creating yarn, I think. And what they have is I think the polyamide is basically like a tube that runs through the middle. And it's a tube with kind of holes, if you know what I mean. And then they blow fibre, the alpaca and the wool, they blow it into the tube. And it's fascinating. So I got this colour because I thought this would be nice for Dan. They do have a really nice range of colours. This colour is called orange, but I think it's more of a brick red, isn't it? More burnt orange. But look at can you see how fluffy it is? And that darkness that you can see inside, that's the tube that they blow the yarn, the fibre into. And I was kind of dubious about this because it's alpaca, and I'm funny with alpaca. I do find it quite scratchy. But all the reviews that I read, some of said it was really, really soft. So I thought I'd just buy one ball, which is 50 grams. It's just a 50-gram ball, and you get 150 metres. So that just shows you how light it is, doesn't it? To get 150 metres in 50 grams. And it's 5mm needle that it recommends. I started I just cast on a little swatch yesterday, but I think it's beautiful. And it's really soft. It's like knitting with a teddy bear. It's like you're unravelling a teddy bear and knitting with it. It's really soft.
So watch this space. I'm going to swatch with it and we're going to see if it maybe might work. So we'll see. But all will be revealed on the Self-Contained Knitter or back here on the show, dependent on when the decision is made.
And I want to crochet a blanket in it. They had loads of pinks. Oh, I'm really tempted. It's beautiful.
Folks, that's it. Oh yes, jam-packed show, but the end has sadly come. But fear not, because we'll be back in 2 weeks with a brand new video show featuring Walking the Moor. So thank you so much for watching.
Thank you, everybody.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you soon.
Bye.
Sitting and knitting, it's Dan and Kay, the bakery players. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery players. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern, get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in your oven, or maybe a shawl you'll want to wear. So sit yourself right down and